All right, welcome Thurgood Marshall students and families. Today I'm going to be talking about state testing. We had an info session about this last night, but I wanted to go through kind of the information in a way that would be helpful in case you wanted to look back at it or in case you weren't able to attend that meeting. So what we'll talk about today is why we have state tests, what is TNReady, what is tested and how, when the tests are going to be. We'll talk about the very specific dates so you kind of know what your child is expecting each day. Then what kind of parent reporting that you can see on Infinite Campus and also that'll be mailed to you. A family checklist of how you can support your child as you guys are getting ready for these tests over the next couple of weeks, and then some practice resources. So if you have questions, you can feel free to email me or text me. I'll have my information at the end of this presentation so that you can access that, just in case there's something that you have a question about that I don't cover in today's session. So first I want to talk about why we even do state testing. So one of the main reasons that we do state testing is that it gives feedback about the student's educational progress towards the next grade. So we want to make sure that in our schools, we are really preparing students for the next grade. And while our teachers work very, very hard to align their assessments to standards and make sure that they're giving you good information on report cards, sometimes that information isn't as standardized as you might like. So students are given the opportunity to retake assessment. Students also have some assignments that they did in groups maybe that are in that. And so state testing really lets you see kind of according to those tests, where are your students progressing, not only with their peers at Thurgood Marshall, but in Metro and then across the state and nation, so that you can really kind of say, okay, so this is where we actually are, and then that can give you the power to help your student even better. It also helps our teachers strengthen their instruction because they can review the student growth that their students have seen and see the teachers who were really, really successful. And so that lets us decide like who is doing really strong work in our school, and then how can we leverage the work that that teacher is doing so that we can make that throughout the school. As a bonus, this test makes sure that each student is being served fairly, so we know where kind of some of the issues may be so that we can address those and fix them. And then it allows schools to learn from classes and schools. So if we see schools in our system that are functioning really well, then we know that they are sources for us to go get additional support so that our students can also function equally well. Why TNReady specifically? So the state decided that they really wanted tests that were helping develop skills that were needed in college and career. And so they felt like this system, this group really offered that. They want to allow students to show what they know in new ways. So especially for our 6th through 8th graders, they're going to see questions that are drop down. They're going to see drag and drop questions. They're going to see really critical thinking questions. And so those are some new ways that students are being assessed. It provides better information for teachers and parents. We've talked a little bit about that. It gives you that ability to kind of say, okay, so if everybody took the same test, where does my student fall in relation to all the other students? And then it promotes real world problem solving. So there are 4 different tests. Tested subjects for 6th through 8th grade. 5th grade, you'll see, does not take the social studies test. And so they luck out a little bit and get to only do 3 tests instead of the 4. But I do really appreciate that in the last few years, Tennessee has decided to kind of split their tests into smaller sections so that students get a little bit of a brain break between the tests. They're usually not going to sit in any test longer than about 50 minutes. There's an exception for that with the essay in the English language arts portion. However, most of the tests are going to fall under that 50-minute mark, which is really nice. So for math, students are going to have 3 sections. Fifth grade's tests last 115 minutes, but that is the total for all 3 sections. So they are not going to be sitting there for 115 minutes straight. 6th through 8th grade is 125 minutes. Again, it's for those 3 sections. So they will not have to sit there and take all 3 of those sections in one sitting. So that's very nice. The materials for the math test, the calculator can be used for 2 of the 3 sections. One section, they will not allow calculators. That's where students should really take advantage of using their paper and their brain and make sure that they are writing out how those steps that they can use to solve those problems. For English language arts, there are 4 sections, so that's the one with the most sections. The very first section is the longest, and it's the one that has a couple of passages and then an essay. If you can be supporting your child at home by making sure that they are practicing writing quickly, that would be fantastic. That's one of the things that our students struggle with the most is that time limit on that test. And so any prompts that you can give them, even if it's tell me 3 things that you enjoyed about last weekend, go and give them 10 to 15 minutes to write and kind of go over that with them would be fantastic because it's just going to give them that confidence that they can write and they can write quickly. And then that is 200 minutes total between those 4 sections for our 5th graders. It's 230 minutes for our 6th through 8th graders. Social studies, there's 2 sections, so it's 100 minutes, so 50 minutes each. Again, that's only going to be 6th through 8th graders taking that social studies test. There's going to be some passages, there's going to be some extended response. All of our 6th through 8th graders and all of the tests are going to be online, so all of that will be over the computer. And we've already been working with students on how to use the computer-based program. But if you can be working on that at home, that would be fantastic as well. I'll have a link at the end of this presentation that gives you some resources that you can use. And one of those is a practice site that's going to look like the TNReady test. And then science will also be 2 sections. That'll be a total of 90 minutes. That's 5th through 8th grade take it. And the expectations are that it's going to measure students' understanding of life, Earth and space, and then physical science. So those are the different things that are covered on each of these tested subjects. So what kind of questions will there be? So every single test, paper-based or online, is going to test deeper level knowledge of students. And so they don't want students to just be at the surface. They're going to ask some questions about inferences. They're going to ask some questions about what the graph maybe suggests, what the scientific results suggest. So really being able to dig deeper down and apply their knowledge is something that students will need to be able to do. In reading and writing, students are going to read from text and provide some written responses to support their answers. So they will ask them questions where they actually have to say, this is my answer and here's why. And then in math, students are going to solve multi-step problems. Many of those are going to not use a calculator so that they're showing really, do I understand the basics of addition, division, multiplication, and can I solve systems of equations without a calculator? So that'll be on that one test. Obviously, they can use the calculator on the other 2 parts, but any help that you can do, flashcards, calling a homework hotline to have them work through some of the skills with them would be great. Additional accommodation. So if your student has an IEP, a 504 plan, or if they're classified as English language learners, then these are some of the accommodations that may already be in those plans. If they are not, then your student will not be receiving these accommodations. But if those are in the plans, then they could get extended time, adult transcription, frequent breaks, or a paper-based test. So obviously 5th graders already have a paper-based test, but our students that are testing on the computer can also have a paper-based test. One lovely thing about accommodations right now is that every student in the state of Tennessee can actually request additional time this year. So they can tell the teacher if they are not finished, they can say, I need more time, and the teacher can give them up to 20% more time on that test. So for a 90-minute test, they would have an additional 18 minutes. For a 50-minute test, that would be an additional 10 minutes. And so that can be really helpful. So students don't need to feel like they need to rush. Most of our students don't need additional time after the test for many of the subjects, but I would say on that writing one, that's going to be the one that really students should request that additional time on. So when will our tests be? So Monday, April 17th is when we're starting. So that's this upcoming Monday. That's going to be ELA Part 1. That's the longest section. It's going to be 90 minutes. Tuesday, we're going to do Part 2 of that test, Wednesday, Part 3, and Thursday, Part 4. So you can see we're not really taking a ton of time each day to do testing since the longest test is 90 minutes. We are going to start those tests in the morning, and so we ask if you have a student and you need to do an appointment at some point next week, if you can bring them for the first part of the day. None of them are going to need longer than a 2-hour block at the beginning of the day. And so if you can just wait for those 2 hours, that gives us time to get them into the system, take the test, take up all the materials, all of that. Then that will be fantastic, because if they end up missing a test, then they end up having to double test on another day. And it's just really exhausting to take that much standardized testing. And so we're hoping that you'll help us out by making sure that you schedule appointments later in the day if you have to take them out of school that week. Friday, April 21st is going to be for 5th grade, the first and second parts of science. And then for 6th through 8th grade, Part 1 and Part 2 of social studies. Excuse me. And then week 2, we'll do our math testing. So Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday are going to be Part 1, Part 2, Part 3 of math. And then Thursday, 5th graders will not need to take any more tests, but our 6th through 8th graders are going to be taking science parts 1 and parts 2. Okay. Parent checklist for TNReady. How can you help us? And how can you help your child? So first, help your kid get ready to learn. So make sure that they are coming to school every day, that they're well rested, that they're fed. It's miserable to take a test and be hungry. We do have some snacks for them here. Breakfast is still going to be provided, but if you can just help us out, I know some of the students don't really want to eat breakfast in the cafeteria, and so if you can make sure that they're up and ready, that would be fantastic. Also, there have been numerous studies that show if you can make sure that they're showered, that they're not in pajamas, all of that is going to assist them in doing their best work on these tests. You can help them by practicing sample questions at home. So at the end of this, there's a couple of websites that I'll give you that give you different avenues for practicing. And so you can encourage your child to practice using those sample questions online. Obviously, we also have Study Island, and so they can go on Study Island and choose the skills and the subjects that they most need help with. You can meet with your child's teacher, send them a text, send them an email, and just kind of ask where your child's strengths and weaknesses are or what they need help with in practicing. We're only a few days out from the test, so it's okay if you don't have time to do that right now, but just kind of knowing your child, knowing what their report cards look like, and then maybe having them practice in those subjects where you see them struggling the most. And then get feedback from your child. So a lot of times your student knows where they struggle and where they're strong. And so asking them, like, what do you need help with? And then encouraging them to get that help from either Study Island, or if they need to call homework hotline and talk to one of those certified teachers there, they can do that. Next, challenge your child. So when your child is working on homework, or if they're doing Study Island, if you can ask them to explain what they're learning and let them teach it to you, that is going to be incredibly helpful. Because what we do know is if students teach things to parents, they're more likely to remember them themselves and gain a greater understanding of them. And then last, be an adult learner. So let your child see you discovering new things and overcoming challenges. learning a new information, learning a new skill, having them show you things, that can show them that it's okay. Nobody knows everything, but we can all be learners and improve. And then practice using Study Island. So this is actually a video over here. I'm not going to show it today, but if you want to go in and see kind of how to access Study Island, what you need to click on, it shows you how to do that. This is available via Clever on all of the students' computers. It has every single subject that they're going to get questions on, and the questions are formatted like they will be. There's also some games, so students can play games while also learning material, so that can be very helpful. And then here's the more resources tab. So there's tn.testnav.com. That's where you can go. You'll see a bottom blue part that says tutorials. So you'll click on that and then be able to navigate the test for your students. If you need more information about the test or want to get practice tests, you can click on that second link. And then if you need help with the practice test, because I know for me, I would not be able to help with every subject. I'm really great with English, but maybe math, I would need to call somebody. So Homework Hotline can be really helpful with that. They're open Monday through Thursday from 3 to 8 p.m. And their phone number and information is there. Next, reporting. So after students are finished with these tests, this is the reporting that you're going to receive. So their score is going to show up on Infinite Campus by the fall, potentially sooner for online tests. Metro has not given us dates for these, so I can't give you specific dates, but they will be there. And then you'll also receive a printed score report. And you can access the scores via the TCAP family portal. So all of those are ways that you can access them as we get these scores in, as we see them and are able to get them online. Our school does not put them online, Metro puts them online, and so we'll be reaching out and letting you know that those scores have appeared so that you know when they're there. So you can see the different scoring categories. So below expectations means that your child has little understanding or ability to apply knowledge and skills. That's probably meaning they're 2 or more grade levels behind if they get a below expectations score. An approaching expectations score means there is some understanding or partial ability to apply the concepts and knowledge and skills on their grade level. That probably means they're about a grade level behind. Met expectations, they have a comprehensive understanding and ability to apply their grade or course level knowledge and skills. This means that they are on grade level. And then exceeded expectations means that they fully understand and have an expert ability to apply the grade level or course level knowledge and skills, which means they are above grade level. So that's kind of, if you see these scores, that's what they mean. You'll also be able to see where the district fell, where students in the school fell, so you'll be able to kind of compare them with where other students are. If there are any other questions, you can feel free to contact me at rebecca.vance@mmps.org or call or text me at 629-888-3280. But that's all I have for you today. If you, again, feel free to reach out. I want to help with this. I know that tests can be a little nerve-wracking, and so I want to make those as non-nerve-wracking as possible. Students should also know, especially our 7th grade students who are looking at optional schools for high school, like Hume Fogg or Martin Luther King Jr., that they need to make sure for ELA and math to be on track or above expectations. So they need to have met expectations or score above expectations in order to qualify for those schools. So that's all I have for you today, and have a great rest of your evening or afternoon or morning, whatever part of the day I'm meeting you. Have a great day, and feel free to reach out with questions.